And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Erica Tait, who fell off a 60-foot cliff and had a near-death experience. Erica, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Erica, let's start on the day that you fell off the cliff and go from there.
Sure. So it was September 2014, and I woke up that morning with a strange feeling in my stomach. Now I understand that as intuition, but back then I really didn't even know what that was. And I decided to go for a hike by myself on the Palisades Cliffs in New Jersey, North Jersey. And I went on a hike. It was September. It was a beautiful day. And I got to the edge of the cliff at the end of the hike. And I was kind of a daredevil back then. And I used to climb up. It's a waterfall that was dried out. And I used to climb up this waterfall. But I never climbed down. And this day I decided that I would try to climb down the cliff. And I started to climb and I got stuck probably within the first couple minutes. I got caught at the very top of the cliff, and there was no place for me to put my hands or my feet. And I was just there for, I don't know how long. I would say probably around 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. And this hike, usually there's always people hiking on this trail, and today is the first day that no one was there. No one came, and my arm started shaking. I was losing my strength, and there was a rock beneath me that I saw, but it had moss on it, so it looked quite slippery and dangerous. But at that point I really had no no other option. So I took a leap of faith, literally and figuratively, and I put my foot on that rock. And the last thing I remember from the actual fall was like the slip of my foot and then like the letting go. And I fell 60 feet onto boulders. I broke my spinal cord, my pelvis, my ribs punctured my lungs, so I was suffocating. I broke my arms and yeah, extremely concussed. And my ribs punctured my lungs, so I was suffocating. And I don't fully remember how I reached for my phone. Like immediately when I fell, I guess I was in fight or flight, but I was able to call 911, and I didn't know my name or who I was or where I was, but I was just like, I'm here, I'm dying, I can't breathe, I don't know where I am, I see trees. And then I went unconscious. And they tried to trace my phone to see where I was, but it was coming. The signals were hitting the cliffs in New Jersey and showing that I was on the opposite side of the Hudson River in Yonkers, New York. So they had search teams looking for me on the opposite side of the river. So I was down there for 7 hours and by myself. And in that during that 7 hour experience, I had a near death experience. And just to back up a tiny bit, the night before I fell, I got in a huge fight with my sister about how there's no such thing as God. Because I was a huge atheist. I was, a highly traumatized being. I was an addict. And yeah, and so I made her cry in this fight where I was pretty strongly arguing that there's no such thing as God. And the next morning, I fell off a cliff and then realized God. And so the first thing that happened during my experience was that I separated or left my body. And that was profound for me because, yeah, for so long, all that was real was what I experienced with my five senses. And to understand that, oh, wait, I'm not my body. Oh, wait, something survives death, that I'm actually not even Erica, like this personality, this being that I identify with, I'm actually not her. And so that was quite profound for me, the separation from body. And then I had what many people call a life review, where my life flashed before my eyes within a moment. And as I said, I was living a really unaligned life, rooted in a lot of suffering. And so I saw all of the suffering that I was causing everybody else because of my own, like the saying of hurt people hurt people. That was very true. And I was just seeing clearly how out of alignment I was living with my sole purpose here, and yeah, totally asleep to what this reality is all about. And so in that, and it wasn't anybody else judging me except for the most objective version of myself. And there wasn't like a shaming, there wasn't like an emotional you did bad or a judging. It was just an honest assessment, like an objective honest assessment of like, okay, this is how you've been doing. And like, and yeah, it's just seeing really clearly. There was also a detachment from a loving detachment from my family and friends, because I recognized in that moment that, oh wait, we're all gonna we're actually all one thing, and we're all gonna actually be with each other again, and that it's okay, they're just asleep to it right now, they're just not aware of that right now, and in this dimension, but as soon as they die, they'll see clearly as well. So there was almost like this, yeah, this acceptance and detachment that was still loving, but yeah, the life review. And then came the experience of the white light that many people speak about. And I saw this energy, I guess some people call it God, consciousness, like source. It was everything. And I learned a lot from this light. It was almost like it was downloaded into my cells, like a lot of understandings. And it was hard because it wasn't so much um, an intellectual understanding with the mind. It was like a full body felt experience of oneness, and how in the dimension of the earth that we're experiencing, everything seems separate and like and hard and physical, but ultimately it's all this white light that's being projected into different frequencies. And and we just, when we get here, we just forget that. We just forget that we're actually just this one thing. But a lot about what this dimension is doing is like it's a school, and it's like it's teaching us to remember that innate oneness and that innate like inner light. And we really learn through experiences, and especially through suffering. And so, yeah, ton of information downloaded into my system. And then there was almost a joint decision between myself and what I would call God, consciousness, um, source, to come back into the body to, yeah, continue this life and like come back into alignment with what I'm actually here for. And so I came back into the body. And this is another really profound experience for me, was like the moment that I came into my body, took a deep breath, I opened my eyes, and then this firefighter who was off duty, like he was not working that day, but he was listening to the phone call with the police looking for me. He had just an intuition, like a gut feeling that he knew where I was. And so he did the hike. And so that moment that I woke up and decided to come back in my body and like took a deep breath, like his little head popped over the cliff and screamed down, Erica. And yeah, and then he saved my life. Um, Army boats came down the Hudson and took me on a boat and then to the hospital. And yeah, I was there for a month in the hospital, and then I was in inpatient like physical rehabilitation for another month, and then in a wheelchair and bedridden for 6 months at home. And through that process, I was really moving through a massive spiritual awakening because I my spirit, my soul was like so purified and awakened with it through this experience, but I was coming back into a body that was highly traumatized and wounded. And um, yeah, so that integration process did take about that long, like almost a year to fully integrate all of the insights. And still, I'm still integrating today, of course. Like, I can't fully, haven't fully embodied everything that I learned. But yeah, it was a big, big healing process. And also, I noticed, my awareness. I was more sensitive. I became really sensitive to energy, uh, to beings like that I felt like were coming into my room, especially during that 6 month period where I'd have experiences of, there's no windows are opened or anything, and all of a sudden there's just like gusts of wind and my fan is going and the curtains are moving and there's nothing that's creating that experience. And also there's something about being a little like electric, like I kept breaking my phones and or my computers, or lights would flicker when I would put them on or off. And so there is something which I also read other people that have NDEs sometimes experience this. Um, yeah, something around electricity that kept happening. And I think the one of the most profound impacts was, yeah, the breaking open of the compassionate heart and like seeing all beings through the lens of our innate oneness that really changes how we perceive and behave. I perceive and behave, and also just yeah, and a sense of purpose, like that this isn't just a meaningless uh, experience here. Like there's actually something very deep and profound that's happening.
If we go back to the beginning, right after you just fell and you popped out of your body, what did you see? I mean, were you floating above your body, looking down and seeing it lying on the ground?
I never turned back and looked at my body. Like it was more of an experience of um it was more of an experience of just not being attached to my body, but it didn't feel like I was in this dimension anymore. It didn't feel like I was in the physical. So I never actually looked back and saw my body, but I could feel and know that I wasn't connected to it.
Did you see anything?
I saw a light. I saw, I saw, it was like experience. Like I saw lights. It was a lot of more feeling than it was seeing with it wasn't seeing with my physical eyes. It was actually like a full body experience of different energies and dimensions.
You realize that you are not Erica. Who are you?
Awareness beneath the identity.
Would you say that is what people call their higher selves?
And would you say our complete selves are?
On the other side, the objective version that you mentioned, and maybe a fragment of ourselves come here?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're just like we're a projection of the one. This one objective awareness. And yeah, each one of us is just a projection of that.
Would you say that your life review is more like a life relive? Like you actually relived it?
Hmm. In a way, you could say that because it did feel like a full body experience. It felt like reliving, but with more objectivity.
Besides saying the things that you did in your life that you weren't proud of, what do you remember about the things that you were proud of?
The inherent goodness of my heart. Like even despite like all of the mistakes, right, and unconscious um, action, there was like an innate goodness of my heart that I could see clearly and understood to be even a big reason why this experience happened, actually, to wake me up to that.
What are your religious or spiritual beliefs now?
I've had lots of experiences and varied in lots of different lineages and but what I've settled in most right now is like because a lot of my death experience was honestly, it was really similar to what Buddhists speak to about death. And so I definitely resonate with Buddhism a lot. Um, Also the trans-Himalayan teachings on this, the personality, soul, and spirit. Like basically it's more of an evolutionary perspective of like the soul's journey. And so, yeah, these two paths right now have been really helpful in understanding my experiences.
Are you aware of the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
Right now, I'm actually right now reading the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, which is, I don't think it's as dense as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but I've heard of a lot of people have recommended that to me.
I've had a guest or two tell me that their NDE was kind of like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I believe that there are 4 stages that a person goes through. But I've never read the book, and I was wondering if you have, and if your NDE was anything like that.
I keep being recommended the book, so I do plan on reading that, and I could tell you later on.
Well, if there are no coincidences, it keeps coming up for you.
I know.
So you mentioned that Earth is a school, and we're supposed to remember that we're all one, right? Can you expand on that?
When we come into this dimension of Earth, we forget. We literally come in forgetting who we are, what we are, and why we're here. And I believe that is quite intentional. And then through our experiences through life, we are offered through experience to come back inward, to look within. And but usually that takes many, many lifetimes to actually remember. First, we tend to just look outward and we're just like, everything is the external world's fault. Everything, like, we just look outward and we point outward and we get lost in our senses and in experiences externally. But then we come to realize over lifetimes that, hey, there's something else actually going on here. And we start to look inward and we start to heal ourselves and we start to take more responsibility for our experience and more accountability for our experience. And the more we do that, we start to see layers and layers of, start to see reality more clearly. And until eventually we get a glimpse of what true ultimate reality is, which as I believe is just, yeah, pure loving awareness, like pure consciousness. And so I call Earth a school because it's through the lessons and through the experiences of life that we actually ultimately end up turning inward and then recognizing the true nature of reality.
Is there a graduation to the Earth School? And if so, where do we go next?
I believe that enlightenment is like the ultimate graduation, and I have no idea where we go next. Yeah, couldn't tell you, but I believe that ultimately we're here to like completely liberate our consciousness and remember our oneness and then live as human beings on the earth with that liberated consciousness.
Are you still able to perceive beings?
Sometimes sometimes if there's a very strong energy, yeah, I can feel and sense. I can feel and sense beings, yeah.
Do you ever do anything with it, like try to communicate with them?
No, personally, I haven't found a pull to to work more with them in that way.
Have you noticed that you have any other abilities since your NDE?
I think just a very strong intuition and yeah, highly sensitive energetically. So being able to really sense people's thoughts, feelings, pasts and futures.
At one point during your NDE, I think you were in a realm where you understood everything, kind of. How much of that were you able to bring back with you?
Consciously, not so much, but the felt sense in the body, in my DNA, like in my cells, like there's a feeling. And when it's embodied like that, then we can like act through that wisdom, even if my mind doesn't consciously understand.
Do you fear death?
I would say no. Spiritually, emotionally, no, but my physical human body still does. Like I still wear my seatbelt and I still, don't touch the hot fire. Like there's still like a survival instinct that doesn't want to die and the body that doesn't, yes, the body that still fears death, but internally, no, I'm not afraid of the process of dying and I'm not afraid of what happens when I die.
You're also a licensed psychotherapist, and you've experienced being out of the body. And some of my guests talk about that. We have our thinking consciousness, and then our body has its own mind. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think the body's mind is related to, I think there's more presence in the body. Um, and so, yeah, the thinking mind, I relate a little bit more to ego versus the body's mind. I would look at it's like almost a middle place between spirit and the ego.
You probably know the numbers better than I do, but we probably think thousands of thoughts every day. And some people will call that our monkey mind. It's just kind of on autopilot. But some of the near-death experiencers will report that when they're on the other side, all of that goes away. Is that true for you?
Yeah, I mean the ego is to get to the place where we're going, the ego stays here. Like the ego doesn't can't we cannot get to where we're trying to go with the ego. And the ego isn't bad. I really want to make that actually really clear too, that I'm not saying that the ego is a bad thing. We actually like really need it for survival here on the planet, and it has really good intentions. And yeah, it can get in the way sometimes if we don't have a practice to clear it and to stabilize it and to have some sense of control or really more like ability to manage it, then it can really cloud our perspective of life.
Would you say that the monkey mind is a result of the ego?
Yeah, definitely.
If you had a friend that was grieving over the loss of a loved one, what type of advice would you give?
Well, I think there's two realities to hold. I think that there is like the human heart that is going to be heartbroken, and sadness and grief, and to really honor with compassion the human experience of heartbreak and loss. And at the same time, to hold the actual ultimate truth that death is totally safe and that we'll all meet each other again and that there's nothing to fear. That if you get really quiet, if you get really internally quiet, that there's a deep sense and knowing that everything is okay.
Have the memories of the experience faded over time?
I think that maybe like the conscious memories, but it's so deeply imprinted in my being that I don't know if that experience can ever fade over time. It's more like, yeah, what was I wearing on that day? Or what was I thinking on the hike, on the way down the hike? Like those memories have faded for sure. But like the profound moments of deep insight, those haven't.
Have your friends and family commented to you that, ever since this, you're a completely different person?
Yeah, I think everyone in my life definitely saw a completely different person, and I had to, a lot of friends, I let go of a lot of friends. I had a new whole group of friends and whole new group of hobbies and interests and yeah, but I was really lucky because my family seemed very open and receptive to all the changes and actually allowed themselves to be transformed as well.
What do you think your purpose is here?
To one, stabilize the awareness of our innate oneness, and then to help everyone else do the same.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so, how do they contact you?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. And you could find me on Instagram, uh, or yeah, which is at Erica Tait spiritual therapist, or email Erica at quantumpsychotherapygroup.com.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
I would say to remember that one, death is safe, and that we are all heading the same direction. What's most important is to listen to our hearts and become more connected to our intuition.
Erica, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.